You know, Martin Luther King once said, "We are not makers of history, we are made by history." Think about that for just a moment. And, you know, by knowing our history, it helps us understand the world so much better. And the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society has been collecting and preserving the history of our little corner of the world. Here with us this morning to talk about that and so much more, Gina Gregory, President of the Historical Society. Thank you so much. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Ronnie. How are you?
You know, good. Can I ask you, as someone who has a passion for history, what has been your thoughts about history coming out of COVID? Because I feel like all of a sudden everyone was thinking about history and learning more about the flu of 1918.
The flu of 1918. And what I really get out of the pandemic experience is that people are just more, or what I've seen is that people are more interested in where they are, their sense of place, where do they belong, what's the whole story of their culture. So we've been fortunately looking into that ourselves. And so our own exhibits reflect more of the deeper history that we have of the area. We were closed during the pandemic just by coincidence to revamp our whole museum experience. And so our Native American, or our native people, we spent a lot of time talking about that, even just who are we, you know, the native people that were here. And so our exhibit is much fuller than it used to be. And we talk about the customs, some of the artwork that they made, trade good items. So there's just always more to tell. And we'll be highlighting some of that at the Juneteenth event. So I had been asked, what can you tell us about Black people in West Bloomfield? And my answer was, I didn't know anything. One of our researchers looked at census materials, and we know that there were 17 Black people here in at the time of the 1870 census. So there's always more to learn and exploration to get into.
It really is fascinating. So can I ask you, since you've been digging deep into the history of the area, what's the one thing that you've learned that surprised you?
I think it's that where the museum is now. I knew it had been the City of Orchard Lake City Hall. I knew it had been, but prior to that, a hotel for vacationers that came out here. But I didn't know that before that, it had been a tavern on a stagecoach line. I didn't know that. And I thought that was pretty fantastic. And I've also seen maps that show Native people paths going by Orchard Lake. So we're located on Orchard Lake Road and Long Lake Road. But to me, we have a continued presence on that corner of always being a beautiful spot for people to see Orchard Lake that's been shared by people always. And we're so excited that we have the opportunity right now to use the Orchard Lake Museum for our as a building space and continue that tradition. And we've trimmed the growth along Orchard Lake Road so that people can actually see Apple Island, which is designated on the National Register of Historic Places. They can see it from our location.
So, Ms. Gina, you mentioned Apple Island. I am fascinated by the island because I come from Kego, so I pass it every day, but I've never been over to the island. Can you tell us more about it?
You're going to have to wait one more year, and then in summer of 2023, we'll be so excited to bring to again have our Apple Island tours. We plan to do it this year, but we knew that the West Bloomfield School District is in the process of buying or purchasing new tour pontoon boats. And they were ordered, and of course, along with everybody else, they haven't, they haven't arrived yet. So at this point, we're going to plan on tours on June 10th and 11th of 2023.
So I'm going to put it in my calendar now because I will drive by, I'll see the sign, and then I know it fills up pretty quickly as well.
Well, and the particular nature of the tour is that it's going to depend on the weather. Certainly the boats will be operating successfully, so it will depend on the weather, so you cannot purchase tickets ahead of time. But that day you just show up at the event and then you sign up and get on a boat when it's the next group available.
So for those that aren't familiar with Apple Island, can you give us a brief background on it?
Sure, and I'm going to let you know that this, in June, our McQuandon, Mike Jewell, who usually is a presenter on the island, will be at the museum for our open house June 12th from 1 to 4. He usually is in his regalia outfit in a campfire situation, a camp situation on the island, but this year he'll be at the museum next to his regalia outfit that's now on exhibit, his clothing, with our exhibit, and he'll be talking about Native American life or Native people life.
So
what was your question? I don't know that I answered it.
No, it's good. How did Apple Island get its name? Do you know? I mean, are there apples on Apple Island?
It's a great question, and we've dug and dug, and it's a very old name. It has been called Orchard Island. It's been called by the natives a word. It sounds like Apple Island. Research, then you ask yourself, well, what kind of apples were they? Locally, there can be hawthorn trees that have haws, which is their fruit, which is an apple looking like fruit. And so you can go online and find those, and we have a photo of them in our exhibit now. So they're probably haws. Probably from early on, the French brought over apple saplings and would plant them. So by the early pioneer days, people were trading and bartering for apple trees. And one of our first pioneers purchased some from Apple Island. I don't remember quite all the details, but they've been around for a long time. Currently, there are 5 apple trees that were planted in 2018 or so by West Bloomfield School District students from Gretschko. And we were able to plant them because the island is now a forest, but a huge maple tree died. And so because of that, the canopy opened up with some sunlight, and we were able to plant the apple trees. Whether they're going to have enough apples or enough sunlight to be really successful will be another question. So there are apple trees there.
You know, and I have a paddle board, but I usually go out on Sylvan or Cass Lake because it looks close, but really if you're going to paddle over there, it's not so close, and we should remind people there's no trespassing on the island, I would imagine.
That's true. It belongs to the school district, and you need permission and a permit to be out there. So if you go through those steps and have a permit, sure, but that's not usually done.
So all you boaters out there, stay away from the island.
That's right.
We know how they are. Hey, what else? Because I feel like you guys have a whole list. I was on your website. You have some exciting things going on. Do you want to talk about any of the other events coming up here in the summer?
Sure, I sure do. So we're very busy in June and July. So we'll be at the Juneteenth event over at the high school on the 19th from 10 to noon. And I already mentioned the open house on the 12th from 1 to 4. Then June 22nd, we're going to be over at Orchard Lake Country Club listening to Bruce Lilly, their waterfront director, on the sailing on Orchard Lake to talk about that. That sailing's been happening there historically for years and years. So he'll give us a presentation at the shore from Orchard Lake Country Club, and we think that should be an interesting talk. And you need to register. So to do that, you reach out, go to our website, and the email address is there. It's contact@gwbhs.org. In July, our open house theme on the 10th will be boating. We'll have a variety of things about boating available. And then we'll be at the Fine Arts Show in July. I'll have a table out at Oakland History Center's Ice Cream Social. And then we're also having an appreciation for our supporters and members on the 13th on our campus. We'll have it outside under a canopy, and we'll look forward to seeing people in person. It's been a while.
And it's so nice to be back. Yeah, I mean, while we're doing this via Zoom, there's still nothing to replace going into the museum and seeing things. You know, because I feel like if you can see it, you can feel it a little bit more. Hey, can I ask you one last question before we let you go? Because the one thing I always remember about the museum is when you have old letters and documents, and the handwriting was in cursive, and it seemed like everyone had beautiful handwriting back in the day. And I think about the kids now who, some of them don't have to learn cursive writing, and I'm always like, no, you need to learn cursive writing so when you go to the museum you can read the old documents.
Well, that's a good perspective, one that most adults share. Yeah. So we have many things to touch at the museum as well. There's all kinds of things to do, inside and outside. We've got a change-making machine like they used to be on buses and trolleys that kids can touch, and a telephone, and an apple cider press, and a grinding wheel, and a yoke with 2 buckets. So, and we have a little mini theater with 2 seats so they can sit down and watch a video in our Kigo mini theater.
Oh, that is so cool. So it's right there on the corner. Quickly, what are the hours, and can people just stop in if they're driving by?
Always, when they're driving by and they see the signs out, certainly stop by. We're now open once a week, and we trade it out, so it's on the 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th Sundays, and the 3rd Fridays. So we're trying to accommodate Sundays as well as Fridays. And our sign has a lot of dates on it, as well as our website.
Well, Miss Gina, thank you so much for being with us. We so appreciate your time, and also all that you guys are doing over there at the Society to preserve our history.
Thank you. It's been a privilege. Thank you.